Hello. Hi, everyone. As a teacher in my main profession, I'm not used to using a microphone. I'm used to just bellowing, so I'd actually almost feel more comfortable probably just to bellow rather than use this, but I'll crack on. I'm Nigel Watts. I'm the head of faculty and the head of School of Art here, and welcome to ExIST School of Art. Welcome to our shiny new studios. Thanks to all your body heat. They also have heat today, which is when we're showcasing brand new things. It was a little bit disappointing that the heating failed, but these things are bound to happen. In Exeter, it feels like it's a very exciting time to kind of be doing this kind of networking, and it's really lovely to have people like Plymouth University, Exeter University. We've got sort of lovely partnerships with the National Trust and the Met Office and all the people that kind of add value. We're obviously really keen at the college. From our point of view, we've seen a massive explosion of STEM, and that's absolutely fantastic. Thousands of young sort of creative minds getting involved in that side of thing, but we've been trying to push to get the A back into it, and so to have a STEAM event makes perfect sense. The synergy between the kind of the STEM side of things and the art side of things just makes it's the two biggest growing areas, parts of our economy, our fastest growing parts of our economy coming together, and we're kind of always pushing our young people, especially next to be really aspirational and to know that one in every 11 jobs is in the creative arts, and it's, as I said, it's the fastest expanding, and they do these lovely things called flame maps where you can see creativity across the country, and obviously London is full of flame. Bristol is a light, but also it does get down to us, and the South West has more creative industry jobs than Wales and Scotland put together. So we're pretty good at knocking it out of the park on that one and performing really well. So, and these kind of events where people can come and they can see the synergy between the two areas, they can see the excitement and what happens when creative people and I don't want to say smart people, but people who are good with the other side of things come together to make really exciting things happen. And so I do want to thank Catherine and from our point of view, Fee especially. There's been lots of people involved today, lots of people from different teams and from different institutions that have been involved. But I know that Fee has lost sleep over putting it all together. So from my point of view, I want to thank you, but also thank everyone that's been involved. And my main job is just to welcome you to the School of Art. Hopefully you'll like our shiny new studios. If any of you want to tour at any time, just ask me or Helen. We can show you some of the other parts of the School of Art. But mostly I'm here just to welcome you and to hand over to Catherine from ExIST.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming along to this first STEAMM show we put on. Hopefully none of you are disappointed there aren't any trains in here, but so I work for the University of Exeter, but also give some of my time to help organise events for ExIST, which is the Exeter Initiative for Science and Technology, which is all about supporting STEM businesses in the region. But throughout my whole life, I've been dually passionate about both the sciences and the arts, and to me, have always struggled with the fact that they get so divided. And so what I wanted to pull together in this exhibit here, and I think really captured throughout the space, is sort of all those places where it's not necessarily just about art sort of representing science or science kind of exploring art a bit, but about the two coming together and creating something new and different together, and try to sort of represent all kinds of different areas of STEM and all kinds of different arts. So we've got, looking at the kind of medical and side with the EXDX videos in the room next door, which I'd encourage you to go watch, which are exploring neurodiversity through using neurodiverse artists in animation. We've got things like Poetry of Places, which is actually bringing literature into the technology space and sort of looking at mapping poetry, and you can explore regional maps of poetry. Claire's done amazing things with putting climate change data into Minecraft and sort of exploring things. We've got some great VR experiences next door, VR in dance, VR to explore astrophysics, and we've got amazing things about actually how do you use modern technologies to enhance really traditional techniques like ceramics and glasswork. And then we've got Art and Energy, who are actually turning science into art with their solar artworks that can charge your phone. And we've also got smart cities in the back, and we've got looking at how we can use more traditional techniques to represent big data over here with Millie Brown's work in the corner. And then FabLab Devon, who are based in the Exeter Library, where you can go and actually play with things if you haven't already and get memberships. So I apologise if I've accidentally skipped anyone there, because I'm just recovering from a cold, so I'm a bit, bit dazed and confused. But anyway, I just wanted to quickly welcome you. Thank you for coming. Thank all the exhibitors for coming and giving their time. Huge thank you to Fiona and Roop for propping up while I was off in my sickbed these last few days and on holiday. You guys have done an amazing job, and I'm so thrilled. And obviously to Ali and Jen and Lisa and everyone who supported, and the great catering. The cider is delicious. Thank you for that. That's helped me a lot. Okay, and also we have a few inspiring speakers with us this evening just to kind of do some short talks. We're not going to keep you on your feet too long. You can get back to playing with exhibits, but just to kind of provoke some thinking about why the creative industries are so important in the Southwest, why it's important to combine arts and technology, and what kinds of things are coming up. So I'm going to start with Natalie Whitehead, who is the founder of a new initiative to set up an ExIST Science Centre. So I'll let her tell you all about that.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Catherine. So hi there, I'm Natalie Whitehead. I've just finished my PhD in physics at the University of Exeter, and I've got a bit of a wild idea to try and open a dedicated science and art, a STEAM science centre in Exeter, because I figured that what we need in this city is a kind of dedicated space to celebrate all the amazing things that really are going on right here. So to give you a bit of an insight into my background, just to kind of set the scene a little bit. I had a past life, if you will, as an engineer. I spent 3 years as a building services engineer. So for me, designing amazing, sustainable buildings is really exciting, especially to show that modern buildings don't have to be, horrible concrete blocks. They can be interesting, green-walled, algae-walled spaces. So that's a little bit of a seed that planted in my mind. I'd love to create an amazing building in particular. But really, my experience of doing physics and doing a lot of science outreach and talks has given me the idea to really take all the amazing things that you're doing and more, and really showcase the research and industry that's going on in Exeter and in the region in an amazing building. So hopefully some of you have maybe been to science centres in the past, maybe the Science Museum in London. There's one in Bristol, that's our kind of nearest neighbour, which is We the Curious. They're amazing. They're usually designed towards children, so they play with these fantastic exhibits and actually understand science through play and through active engagement. What I'm trying to do in this science centre, and my team as well, there's a small team of us, we're trying to create a space that's suitable and interesting and inspiring for people from all ages and backgrounds. We're really keen that people who wouldn't normally engage with science or even think about going to a science centre feel comfortable at the place that we're trying to create. So even though creating a building is going to be quite a costly and time-consuming process, we're in the process of looking at all the impact of that now. But in the meantime, we hope to run festivals, at least take part in festivals and have events where we can showcase the cool things that people are doing. So this is kind of a little bit of a plea for all the amazing people out here doing cool things. Please come and speak to me, or I'll come and speak to you guys, if you're interested in future taking part in what we're trying to achieve. I don't know if that's 5 minutes or so, but basically I'm very enthusiastic about all the amazing STEAM-based things you're doing here, particularly the connection, as Catherine was saying, of linking science and art. So often people think that science and art are these polar opposite things, and quite clearly we can see here that they're very much intertwined, particularly the idea of creativity, the idea of trying to understand the universe, make sense of it, and I think that's what artists and scientists are both doing. And this is what we really want to display in an amazing hands-on science centre. So I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, and I think one of the other things that hopefully you may have noticed walking around is it's not just about Exeter. We're more powerful as a wider region. That's another thing that I'm really passionate about. And so I'm really, really pleased that we've got both University of Plymouth and Plymouth College of Art with us here today. Unfortunately, our speaker from Plymouth College of Art couldn't make it in the end, but we have two fantastic speakers from University of Plymouth. But I do want to say thank you to Plymouth College of Art for being a sponsor for the event. But I would like now to welcome Mike Phillips, who is the head of i-DAT, which I'm going to let him explain maybe, because it's a fantastic research lab.
Hello, so Mike Phillips, I'm a prof of, actually it's interesting, they say, what do you want to call yourself when you're a professor? And I think, well, I do digital stuff, but that didn't quite work. So in the end it was interdisciplinary arts is the term, and I chose that title after months of thinking about it, because as we've heard, this is not a kind of one thing or the other, that old sort of C.P. Snow idea of two cultures with arts and science. It's rubbish. The scientists hate each other as well, as much as sculpture people and painters do. And I work with a lot of data scientists, and it's really interesting how the instrumentalists who gather data from the world using instruments really don't like those people who work with citizen science, who collect data from talking to people. They actually call that human data dirty data. So there is this, it isn't a continuum, it is a negotiation, and these artificial barriers that are put in place between different cultures are actually formed around institutions like funding bodies or university faculties, and honestly those are just administrative forms. They're not what is really important, which is people, people understanding stuff. And if you look at the kind of way billions of pounds of money have been put into data literacy about climate change, and the fact that it operated in just one of those cultures, in the scientific culture, it's not particularly good out there. And maybe that's because the cultural side of it was left out of that debate. And I think for most of us, when we go home at night, you don't look at your data visualization, you look at EastEnders or something. So if you could embed that kind of relationship, that kind of information into the kind of daily lives of people through a cultural conversation, maybe we might have a better grasp on reality as much as the desires that we have in our own head. So as Catherine said, from Plymouth University, I run a thing called i-DAT, which is an arts organization, but we've been operating with data. In fact, I think it says on our poster there, playing, what's it? I can't remember now. Data, experimental playing with data or something like that. And that playing bit is really important. And I guess the role I have is playing with data, but doing it in a way that crosses those boundaries between different institutions. I'm here sort of slightly with two hats on, three hats, i-DAT hat. I've also got the Impact Lab hat on, which is our role in Plymouth, which is to do with data visualization. We have a lot of full dome environments, and I got some videos over there in the next room talking about that. And again, that is an amazing way to communicate really complex, deep science stuff, big data, petabytes of data through an emotional experience. But I've also got the other hat on, which is to do with the Southwest Creative Technology Network, which again we have Kaleider represented in here as well with Andy, wherever he is. He's got the... Yeah, he's in there. He's got all the headsets on, who are an Exeter-based organisation, arts organisation. And this is a region-wide initiative funded by Research Council England, Research England, to get the creative industries engaging with some pretty interesting themes. We've done immersion. We've just finished, and the automation call and the prototype stage of that is out now. And we've launched with a deadline for Monday of fellowships in the data theme. So check out swctn.org.uk if you're interested in putting £12,000 for just thinking about data. I mean, that's good, right? So pitch for that. I think I will end there. There's bits of video on there, and I think Catherine is next. Yep. Yes. Different Catherine. Thank you.
Yeah, so next up is the other Catherine in the room. So Catherine and I met and we became the two Catherines, but also Catherine works on something that has always fascinated me for many years, which is sort of architecture and smart cities. So I'll let her tell you.
I am the other Catherine. I shall forever be the other Catherine. So I think difficult to follow Mike. That was all very exciting, and there's money and things like that. So, but I think what's interesting is looking at smart cities is thinking about what is dirty data, as Mike called it. So smart cities is, I don't know, has people heard, who hasn't heard of smart cities? It's all right, you can put your hand up, it's okay. Oh, that's most people, so that's good. If otherwise people are lying. One of the things about smart cities is it's a big agenda, a lot of investment internationally. Where is it happening on the ground? If we look out in our streets around us, does it really feel that smart? So trying to think about how we can actually design smart cities. So I'm an architect by training, and I don't do lots of building. So I think about technology and space and look at how we can create places, and particularly when we involve the digital with that. And smart cities is really the sort of area in which that whole field is evolving, about how we think about the space around us, when it's embedded or integrated with technology. How does that become different? How do we think about that space differently? So we all know those points where we lose our attention, or we think about the world differently because of digital, but do we think about how it relates to the place we're in, and particularly the city we're in? So this is really the sort of agenda around smart cities. How can we look at the sort of cross-platform areas, so from transport through to health, through to how we make governance, so the political nature of it, how we look at our environment, I missed one, how we live, so energy, all those areas sort of come together in smart cities. They're often joined through a sort of data-fied approach, and as Mike mentioned, there's sort of clean data, which is complex and expert and often difficult to get at, and then there's a sort of dirty data, which is the data that we have around us every day, but we don't necessarily make much use of. So really, smart cities, I think, is a great challenge and interestingly, the challenge is maybe not for the big cities like London, New York, who've sort of done some interesting projects, they've got a scale. I think Exeter, Plymouth, the regional cities, we've got a real challenge about how to think about technology in those cities and use it for the benefit. And even going out to the rural, so we might say smart city, but smart cities is really a state of mind. It doesn't have to be in a city. I don't know if anybody who here lives outside of Exeter or outside of the main cities. Really, I think one of the sort of killer apps for our smart technologies are those that are off-grid and in the rural networks. And what we used to call, one of the reasons why people often moved out of cities was because they could still be connected but not be in the city. And yet, have we really explored what that means? I don't know. I think there's a lot of potential there. I'm similar to Mike in that we're in the School of Art, Design and Architecture at Plymouth University, so come visit us, I suppose, if you'd like to know more. We're working on a couple of projects in Plymouth at the moment. One is sort of applying our thinking around smart cities and non-urban, and looking at green and blue infrastructure and how we can engage people with green and blue space and see the value around it, and also looking at some sort of off-grid IoT as well. So how can we use Internet of Things, which is one of the technologies around smart cities, so basically sensors embedded in stuff which give internet connection and we get live data, how we can use that maybe off-grid where it's not got the connection that we always have. So happy to talk, and if anybody's interested in smart cities, do get in touch, and I shall pass on to the next, not Catherine.
So if you've got the little brochure for this evening, you see it says that Dom Jinks is up next, who's the Exeter Culture Director. Unfortunately, he got stuck in Bournemouth thanks to trains. But it's worth mentioning that what he was going to talk about is something it's worth looking into, is that if you're not aware, Exeter recently got awarded a UNESCO designation as a literature city. So it's a really exciting thing for the city to have been awarded, and if you don't know about it, then go and have a look online, because I don't know enough about it to tell you about it. But we're going to finish off our talks for the evening with Kira Eastor, who is, you heard mention from Mike about the Southwest Creative Technology Network, which it took me a long time to remember all the letters in that acronym, I have to say. So Kira is an automation fellow, so with the plug about joining as a data fellow, she can tell you a bit about her exciting research that she's been doing.
Hello, I've done my back in, so I might look a little bit awkward as I stand here, and I have notes. But I just want to take you to a very cold evening in Finland, which is probably not so much of a stretch tonight as it is on most evenings. But you may or may not be aware, but over the past 18 months, there's been a really big experiment going on in Finland where they're trying to get 1% of the population of Finland, so that's about 55,000 people, to become much more aware of AI, artificial intelligence, and its potential. So they have this situation where they have dentists, school teachers, parents, all learning, all non-technology people, all learning about AI and its potential. And the whole point of it is to bring technologies like AI into sort of popular consciousness so that the country can really understand what AI can do for the civic realm and for its economy. And the economy minister for Finland says, we'll never have so much money that will be the leader of artificial intelligence, but how we use it, that's something different. And I just thought it was really, really powerful. And I suppose it's been a very interesting case study for me that I came across because of the Automation Fellowship. And I've been looking specifically through my fellowship at how arts and cultural leaders, how much they really understand the potential of technologies like AI and robotics. And the reason that I applied to be an Automation Fellow, and by the way, I'm very happy to talk to anybody that wants to know about the fellowship, the reason that I applied was because until April this year, I was the Chief Executive of Libraries Unlimited, which is the charity that runs libraries across Devon and Torbay. And I could definitely talk a good talk about digital. And I was, as Karen will tell you, I was very, very involved in bringing the FabLab into ExIST Library. So on the face of it, I actually knew quite a lot about digital. In reality, I knew nothing. I knew nothing really about artificial intelligence, knew nothing about robotics. But I felt that if I was going to be trying to lead organisations in the future and trying to shape the communities and civic society that we all live in, actually there was a massive responsibility on me as a leader to get my head around what these technologies were doing and to understand whether my colleagues running other organisations really understood this stuff too. And perhaps it's not surprising that when I've talked to colleagues both in the Southwest and nationally about what they understand about AI, robotics, machine learning, lots of them say they understand what those terms mean, but almost 90% of them say that they'd like to learn a lot more. But over 50% of them, interestingly, say they never come across relevant training and development opportunities, and I think there's a real gap in the market in terms of bringing leaders up to speed in the arts and cultural sector. And what I think is really interesting for tonight's event is that about 50% of them say that the real way that they'd like to know more about these technologies is by meeting technologists and being able to experiment and play. And I think those opportunities could be really significant in changing the landscape of arts and cultural organisations and how they engage not just with their existing audiences, but with new audiences that are not coming through the doors of their venues at the moment. So, it's very hard to find really compelling case studies, actually, of how these technologies are being used in the arts and cultural sector. But just a couple of really quick examples. There's the, and if people have got lots of other examples, I'd be really keen to hear. But in Ohio, there's the Akron Art Museum, and they're using Facebook Messenger, a Facebook Messenger chatbot called DOT, who you can use on your smartphone as you walk around the museum to engage with the art and exhibitions. Really fascinating case study in the Postal Museum in London that very recently has been using AI and machine learning to map visitor flows around the building, particularly to the shop, where the Postal Museum. It's really interesting why they've had to do that. That's another story. But they've been able to then use the data and the algorithm to forecast visitor flow, with the result that it's increased revenue by 97%, which seems bizarre, but amazing. One of the other automation fellows, Guy Gadney, has been doing some really interesting work with AI to create stories, replayable, interactive conversations with crafted characters, which I think is fascinating. But the barriers, I think, are significant too. Over 50% of leaders that I've talked to say that their existing digital infrastructure in their organisations just isn't fit for purpose, and that around the same amount, about 50%, say that their teams lack the digital skills that they need. So, my provocation here is that there are huge and timely opportunities, I think, for arts and cultural leaders to begin to link up with technologists and really understand, to play, to experiment, to see what happens. And that arts and cultural leaders have a massive contribution to make to that bigger conversation about the ethics of things like AI. But if people don't understand those technologies, they cannot engage credibly, I don't think, on a stage in that dialogue. And all civic leaders, whether they're arts and cultural leaders or leaders of not-for-profit organisations, I think have that responsibility to get under the skin of these technologies and make sure that we're creating the right connections with different communities. So what can we do in Exeter? I think there are massively exciting opportunities in Exeter. I'm one of 3 automation fellows that's based in Exeter. Roop is one of the other of our happy trio of people based in Exeter. But we're a city with a great tech sector, I think, and some great organisations and institutions, the college, the university, Tech Exeter, ExIST, all of the organisations, some brilliant digital organisations. And it feels like they're willing to play their part in the life of this city. We've got Exeter Culture with Dom, bold and ambitious plans to place arts and culture at the heart of the city, and we've got opportunities like the Institute of Technology that's coming along, bringing amazing sort of digital data, advanced engineering opportunities. So I would like to see all of those ingredients coming together in a Finland-style project here in Exeter. And as Dom isn't here, and as a librarian of 25 years standing, I couldn't finish my provocation without mentioning the UNESCO City of Literature, because it's absolutely fantastic that Exeter has, in the last round, the only city in the UK to get a designation at all was Exeter as City of Literature. So we joined the likes of Edinburgh, Manchester, Norwich, Nottingham to be a UNESCO City of Literature. It's a major, major achievement. So how could we broker new connections using that opportunity with writers, readers, teachers, artists, children, working alongside the tech sector to think about stories, to look not just back at the literature, the great literature of this region, but also to think about how we can come together as leaders and create new stories with our local communities. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Those were fantastic talks and very inspiring. We're done now with the standing and listening and talking bit, so you can go off and play with everything. Make sure you have a go with everything that's here. It's all lots of fun. I just want to say a final repeated thank you to Exeter Art School and Exeter College for hosting and sponsoring us here. Round of applause to the college. And also a big thank you to Plymouth College of Art, who co-sponsored the event tonight, so otherwise you'd have had to have paid more. Yeah, a huge round of applause to all our speakers and exhibitors and everyone who's helped set up.